Welcome to Maria Alejandra Off Topic, the podcast about the non-musical things around music. I am Maria Alejandra Jimenez, violinist, musician, and writer. Off Topic is more than just a podcast. It's a platform featuring articles, essays, and a free newsletter that explores this universe. Subscribe so you don't miss any content and visit the website mariaalejandra.jimenez.com. That's Jimenez with a J and a Z. Subscribe also on your favorite audio platform so you don't miss any episode. Our guest today is Bernhard Kerres, an executive coach and keynote speaker based in Vienna, in Austria. He was the first opera singer to become a C-level executive of multi-million euro tech companies. And he was the only artistic director of a world-leading concert house to bring his startup to Silicon Valley. Bernhard coaches executives, especially in tech and consulting, as well as entrepreneurs, business owners, and classical musicians. Bernhard regularly teaches leadership for executive programs at London Business School and has published several articles on music and management. His book, Be Your Own Manager, contains essential career advice for classical musicians. Now, on a more personal note, how did I meet Bernhard? I read his book, Be Your Own Manager, some years ago when I was still finishing my studies in Lausanne. It inspired me to look closely at my career and my life and think for the first time how I imagined my future based on my values and desired lifestyle. And I had the chance to meet him in person at the Lucerne Festival Academy when I attended his career management workshops. And that meeting left a big impact on me and led me to connect with other like-minded musicians and to understand that any other passions outside of music are part of my personal brand and they enrich my own musical path. And today we are going to talk about the intersection between coaching, connecting with people, music, creativity, and let's see also where the conversation leads us. So welcome, Bernhard. How are you?
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here and congratulations to what you are doing. I'm really great and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Amazing. The first thing I ask all the guests in this season is, do you have a recommendation to share? It can be anything that you've been enjoying lately.
I always love to recommend books and coffee shops sometimes, but stay with books there. I love to read. I love to read fiction. And one of the most fascinating books I read over the last couple of months was from Jodi Picoult called I Wish You Were There. And it is a story around COVID and around the pandemic. And I find it really fascinating. It's a good read. And it has a very surprising turn, but I won't tell you that. No spoiler alerts here.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. I don't know it, and I still didn't read any book inspired in the COVID pandemic, so I will check that out. Yeah. And what is your first memory associated with music? This is a deep question, like straight like this.
So my first memory is related to music is going into a shoe shop with my mom when I was a little boy, and I wanted to have black shoes, black leather shoes. And my mom thought, why does this little boy actually want to have black leather shoes? And she asked me, and I said, Mom, so that I can go to the concert with you. That was the reason, and since then, I'm hooked into classical music.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing. I'm always very curious to hear all the different people telling what is their first memory to music. And I found that people that are from a culture similar than mine, from Latin American countries, we have similar stories. And it's very interesting to see how, depending on culture, the replies change quite a lot. So that's very interesting always.
Yeah, growing up in Vienna, in Austria, classical music is just part of the life right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And how was that for you to be surrounded since always by classical music?
For me, it was very natural. I think it was always a big part of my life. I love to go to concerts. I went to the opera early on. My mother sang in a choir, and they often had big concerts in the Musikverein, and I would go there. I would love it. So I also learned the piano early on, and later the guitar and trumpet. So music was always a part of my life. I couldn't imagine without it, and I still can't imagine a day without classical music or really good music. So sometimes I'm not only listening to classical music, but it's definitely the most important part.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I still didn't visit Vienna in my life, so this is something I
When are you
definitely have to
coming?
do. I never went to
Absolutely.
Austria. It's crazy. So yeah, I will think about it. I will think about it.
Don't think about it, just come.
I will try just to come. And I wanted to ask you also, what is your first memory associated with coaching?
That's an interesting question. And that's probably a tough question. So when I finished school, or towards the end of my school, I was thinking about what could I do, what could I, what could I study? And on the one hand, there was singing, opera singing, and that was pretty strong, pretty interesting. But on the other hand, it was actually psychology. I was always really interested in psychology. But psychology had a very bad name in my family. So it was not something my parents would, or especially my father, would not necessarily support me in doing. I think he was happy, or he wasn't happy about it, to be honest, but it was the lesser of two evils for me going to study singing. Psychology was out of the way. And coaching is very much related to psychology. We often use the same tools, but it has the major difference that we don't look back into the past, or not very much, but it's really forward-looking.
Yeah.
And so I came across coaching then more and more when I started business at London Business School, a tiny little bit. And then I heard about it, and I had a wonderful colleague who at some point said, why don't you do actually coaching education? And I spoke to her, and that's how the ball got rolling. And I got into coaching relatively late, probably in my life. I was already in my 50s to do my coaching training and go in there. But I find it beautiful because it also shows that learning never stops. And
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, like, there was first, let's say, the musical education, and then in between, there was all the business part, and then coaching came after. How was this journey for you? How can you tell me a bit more about? Because I know that, reinventing oneself is always a very fascinating journey, sometimes not easy and sometimes exciting, both at the same time. So can you tell me a bit more about that?
I'm happy to tell you more about that. So when I introduce myself, I always start with I'm a failed opera singer. I loved opera since I was a child. As a teenager, I would go to the opera. I saw all the big stars. I saw Placido Domingo and José Carreras and Luciano Pavarotti and Montserrat Caballé and I don't know, fantastic singers. So when the opportunity came to actually study singing, I thought, great, I'll take that. And probably already while studying singing, I thought, not necessarily the easiest. But then I got into the opera studio of Zurich Opera House, and there I sang actually with José Carreras and Agnes Balzer and many others, fantastic musicians. And I thought, wow, great. But then I realized, and it was my end 20s, that won't get me anywhere. So I would have done at best a mediocre career. And so I had to be very honest with myself and say, Bernhard, do you want to fight for your income and for your living every single day? Are you good enough for that? Or do you need to do something else? And then I decided with 28, I think, or 27 to do something else. And the question was what? And yes, I wanted to go into business. I was always very entrepreneurial. And so I thought I needed a business education, but I didn't want to go back to university for 4, 5, 6 years to study business. So I thought an MBA would be right, a Master of Business Administration. These are normally 2-year programs. And I think by the sheer luck, I entered into London Business School, which is one of the best business schools in the world. Fantastic school, a fantastic class. And again, I think they just took me on in the end to have a bit of marketing, saying we even have opera singers in our MBA classes. It was good for the marketing. And then when I started interviewing for jobs, I realized nobody actually wanted me on the interview list. Luckily, I had a wonderful connection to our career center people. So they let me sneak into some of these events, these cocktail parties and, drinks and breakfasts and so on. All the big companies, the big consulting companies, the big finance companies and so on did for us. And there was one, and I sneaked in, and there was someone I talked 2 hours about opera. It was really fascinating conversation about opera, what we love about opera and so on. Turns out she was the head of recruiting for, at that time, Booz Allen and Hamilton. And I got all my courage together to ask her in the end of our conversation, saying, it would be great if you would give me an interview. And I think she just thought, okay, one interview more or less, it doesn't matter. Out of that came 5, 6 years actually of wonderful work. I really loved for a while working with Booz Allen Hamilton. And then came one of my clients asked me saying, Bernhard, you rather run companies than consult companies, and said, yeah, that's probably right. So he said, there's an opening for a CFO position. That's a Chief Financial Officer position, which is really funny because at that time I didn't know how to read a balance sheet or anything.
Yeah.
So I learned it in a crash course, and I had a fantastic team. Among them, the finance director, Franz Kammerhofer, who must have been one of the most patient people I've ever met in my life, because he would answer every stupid question I had. And I can tell you there were more than enough stupid questions I had about balance sheets and taxation and I don't know what. So I learned a lot from him. And that was great. And then I became CEO of a stock market listed company, which was wonderful. And when the call came to return to music, to run the Vienna Concert House, that was kind of, yes, it took me a bit of a while because I knew that probably being in arts management is not always the easiest thing.
Yeah.
It's highly political. It's a lot of backstabbing. And so I wasn't sure about it until my mentor told me, saying, Bernhard, why wait 10 years? Why not do it now? If you love it, do it. And so I did it. And I'm really grateful to him about that. And when that came to an end, it wasn't an easy period. There were not that many job offers coming in. And it was in my mid-late 40s. So I thought, but I had an idea to do a startup. So I built a LinkedIn for classical musicians, brought it to Silicon Valley, lived there, had investors, had a really great time. But realized that musicians don't make much money. And that annoyed me personally, because I think making money is important and music is important for society. So musicians need to make money. So I wrote a book with Bettina, you mentioned that before, and came back rich in experience, but with no money. And for the first time in my life, I actually had to ask a friend to lend me some money, because I didn't have any money at that time. And I started working again. I had to reinvent myself again. And it was probably the second big reinvention. And for me, there was never ever the thought of giving up. Never ever the thought that everything else, is against me. Saying, well, tough shit, sorry my language. I need to get up and just make the best out of it. And that was it, actually. Just getting up and start walking again, even if it's tough at the beginning. And that brought me through together, and equally important, with some amazing friends, a wonderful daughter, people who supported me a lot, and they're always there for me. Otherwise, I don't know how that would have ended.
Thank you for sharing that. There is a lot of things to unpack. I wanted to say that I always find fascinating hearing people's stories of reinvention, and very often I have to look for them outside of the classical music, because I have the feeling that very often in the classical music industry there is this path that is kind of predefined. You have to study with a good teacher, and then you have to decide if you're going to be a soloist. You have to do competitions, and then if you're not going to be a soloist, then probably you have to get into an orchestra or start teaching at a school. And I think it takes a lot of courage to accept that maybe the type of musician that you are is not going to fit in these categories, and therefore you have to create a path on your own that can be related to music or not. And I think that's very painful. It's something that definitely happened to me, and happened also to people that are very close to me. And accepting that, I think it takes a lot of courage. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, in classical music, I think that's even harder and tougher. In one of the group coaching conversations in the Penguin Club we had lately, we called them the Order of the Defenders of the Boring Classical Music Traditions. There is a whole kind of, I don't know, a group of people who tell you exactly what you just said. If you want to become a soloist, you need to win competitions. If you want to go into an orchestra, you need to audition for them, and otherwise go and teach. Yeah. And luckily, the world is so much richer than that. And there are so many musicians out there who are doing an amazing job of bringing joy and music to the world, with fantastic music, who are completely or mostly outside of these really narrowly drawn borders of this is the only classical music you can actually listen to, and that should be produced. Yeah. So I only can encourage everyone, look outside. This little tiny little box of boring classical music is really boring, and it's not where the exciting stuff happens.
Yes, totally. And also I think, as you say, classical musicians, unfortunately, we don't have money, and very often trying to embark on these journeys that are a bit alternative, it takes a lot of strength, because you have to, you are basically going against so many things that you have to be very strong to keep doing it. And at the same time, it's very difficult. You are betting on something that you don't know what's going to be the result, because realistically, classical music is a very small world in the huge world of art and entertainment. It's not as mainstream as other music genres. And then to get opportunities in classical music, you have to go through certain paths, to go to certain even political agendas. And I feel like, of course there are other ways, but to go through all these other ways, you have to be open a bit to these other things in life, no? And maybe experiment a bit, and having connections outside of us, also of classical music, that brings you other opportunities. I don't know what you think about that.
I think the first step is to question the term classical music.
Yeah.
I think classical music is currently synonymous with very elitist performances, which don't mean much to most of the people in the world. There is, and you come, from Latin America, and there's an amazing music tradition in Latin America, which influences a lot of what we call Western classical music. And there's this interchange between these music styles. And that is where the richness is in there. Yeah? It is not kind of this little box of that. So first thing I would encourage everyone to stop speaking, I'm a classical musician, say you're a musician. Yeah. You might call yourself a classical inspired or classical trained, probably not, musician, but focus on the musician and what actually music brings to the world. Now, in my view, as many know, is in a very technocratic, rational world, we need significantly more music. But we
Yes.
don't need that in a rational way. We need that in an emotional and spiritual way, because that's what we're losing currently in our world. So find your way into sharing your emotions with people, sharing perhaps also your spirituality with your audiences. And you will see that over time you will make a fantastic career and you actually contribute to society, something which is so essential at the moment. But this is outside of this elitist box.
Yes.
So the first step is step outside. Yeah.
Yes.
You always can play classical music. You can always bring classical music to people who really care for that. But people don't care. Most of the people don't care if you play Schubert or Brahms or Shostakovich. It doesn't mean something to them. The only thing which really means it to them is there somebody out there reaching into my heart.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's very interesting you're saying that, because lately I stopped calling myself even a violinist. I started calling myself just a musician. And it sounds like a very little thing, but it has made such a big change in the way I think about myself as an artist. And right now I just finished a tour with my duo, our first tour. And one thing that we wanted to do is to approach it not as classical musicians, but as musicians. And this meant also that we were not dressing like formal. We were dressing more on the casual side of things. We were with a kind of more calmed body language on stage, not so rigid, like I have to go in the stage and bow and a bit more. And even we played a full program, 1 hour of contemporary music, for an audience in a small town in Italy that doesn't have any kind of musical education at all. And we were there explaining the pieces with the microphones, talking with the audience very casually. And I was very surprised how the audience reacted to that and how much they connected with it. And I think this is a bit where we should get going as, I would say classical musicians. I think we should start to just thinking of making music. And I totally agree with you. So, yes.
I love that experience you're just sharing, because, in every kind of concert hall you go in and saying, oh, we can't do anything contemporary because people don't come. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is in many concert halls absolutely true. But if you do exactly what you say, and I have a lot of musical friends who do that, who go somewhere, who explain to people the music, I was just at a wonderful music festival in Athens, and there was also a contemporary piece, and the composer explained in a few words what he was doing there and what he was writing. And everyone, although it was atonal, it was difficult, it was complex, everyone was fascinated by that piece of music. Yeah. So it is just about, how you approach people and say, I'll introduce something to you.
Completely. And I think if you give something with generosity, people is going to take it also with generosity. And whatever it is, I believe.
That's a beautiful phrase.
Yeah.
Giving with generosity, people will take it with generosity and give back, actually. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. And another thing I wanted to say, going back to the history, to the story that you shared, is this thing of also trusting time. In the sense, I remember when we did the management course in the Lucerne Academy that we started talking about ikigai, this concept, this Japanese concept of ikigai. And the thing is that very often things in life, they take time, and sometimes we have to take some detours to go to the place where we have to go. And I find it very interesting, this thing of working with tech companies and then working with music, and then at the end merging the two worlds. These things takes time, and I feel like as humans we are not really good at trusting this.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things we want today, right now, in that moment, and we are, because of also the digital world, used to that we can get everything in every second. And when I went to school, which is many years ago, I had a wonderful girlfriend in Vienna, and I was going to a boarding school in Styria, and we would write letters to each other every single day. And these letters took 2 days to arrive. Very simple. So our letters actually crisscrossed that, which gave it a multitude of conversations happening in parallel, because the answer to my letter would come 4 to 5 days later. Yeah. But we wrote every single day. So it was this crisscross of that. Fascinating, beautiful. Today we write, a message on WhatsApp or so, and it's kind of instantly there. That's what we're used to. But therefore, many people also think that in our careers, we need to be at that spot immediately. And when I teach the concept of Ikigai, which I love to do, and it's, by the way, also on the Reparations app, you find it there with exercises and so on. What I love to do is to tell people it took me 25 years to reach my Ikigai. And still, after all that time, it takes effort to stay within that Ikigai, to redefine it, to polish it, to see where I am and where I should be. So enjoy that time. I know that, and it sounds, in my age, it sounds so simple. When you look back, somehow it suddenly makes sense. When you're in the middle of the storm, you have no clue. Trust your guts, trust me, and trust others saying, don't worry, if you take a couple of detours, enjoy the ride. There are things which you will really enjoy, which you will experience, and you will also learn about yourself, which otherwise you wouldn't.
Very beautiful. I'm trying that. It's still not easy as humans nowadays, but I'm trying. And I wanted to ask you also, because you work with both classical musicians and entrepreneurs, what is something that musicians can learn from entrepreneurs and vice versa? What are some things that entrepreneurs can learn about musicians? If you are enjoying this episode, maybe you would like to go a little deeper. I have 2 new things for you. Now you can book a tarot reading with me in which we can explore a question or problem you have related to creativity or your life as a musician, artist, and creative, starting from just €25. For more information and to schedule your reading, go to the link in the description. And now we are launching the podcast membership, the Cafecito Off Topic, a private support community where we reflect together and do co-working sessions. In addition, there you will get an extra essay or article per month, which you can read or you can also listen to as if it were another podcast episode. And finally, you also receive a 10% discount on all the tarot readings. The Cafecito Off Topic is a space to disconnect from the voracity of social media and make room for your ideas and your creativity. All this for only €12 a month. For more information and to join, go to the link in the description.
So what musicians can learn from entrepreneurs, but also from executives and is a great focus on understanding that, for example, teamwork doesn't come from itself. That I have to invest in that. That it's not enough you just played a tour with your duo just to say, that's what we're playing, let's go, let's rehearse, let's practice, and let's go. There's so much more to it. And that is actually something which is really great to learn. What does it mean to build up trust? What does it mean to be a high-performing team? How can we really learn from each other instead of just kind of operating and delivering like many musicians do on a very high level? So that's definitely the one. The other thing is, and we in my company, we love to do these workshops for managers and leaders, also entrepreneurs, with musicians. And we're doing actually one on Thursday in the Vienna State Opera with the Vienna Philharmonic and the executives of a bank. And what they can learn is that we do not need to explain everything in words. When we conduct an orchestra, it's a bit of symbols, it's a bit of waving your hands, a bit of looking, a lot of breathing, and the trust that somehow it will happen and that every single person is committed to bring the best performance possible. And in management, we very often become micromanagers and want to control every single tone, kind of every single note is really played correctly, and we don't trust that. So there's a lot we can learn from each other there, and it's fun to do that.
That's
so
amazing.
Perhaps also for the musicians out there, if you have people who work in companies, spend a day with them. See how, ask them to shadow them for a day. Go into their meetings and see how they work and what they do. Ask all the questions you can just to get a feeling for them, and offer them to spend a day with you as well. You will learn lots from each other.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting experience. I tried that a bit myself. I went to some networking events for entrepreneurs and executive as a musician. And I have also a lot of friends that work in corporate that are not like artists or musicians at all. And it's such an enriching experience because I felt like I learned so much from them and from their approach to life. And vice versa. I think also my approach to life enriched them. And something that I find very interesting of this especially is that give me also more a sense of normalcy, like that life could be more normal, because it's true that musicians, we live such extreme lifestyles that we forget sometimes what is it to have like a normal, like even like just a normal Sunday. And it was very enriching to me because this year I went on holidays with my friends that they work on corporate, and it was fantastic. It was such a different approach to life, and it was so beautiful, and it was probably the most beautiful holiday I ever had. And also they come to our concerts for free, and they listen to some great music, and they see us working, and it's something that I definitely recommend to people. And yeah, it's an amazing experience.
Yeah, and what you do and what you also shared just now is not only you learn for yourself, but you're also building your audience. And
Yes.
so often musicians just are stuck with themselves and kind of always looking inwards instead of looking outside and speaking to people and making friends. And I find it fantastic that you go to such events. Brilliant.
Yeah, and actually it makes me think a lot because I started to go to talk about my podcast, and I found that I didn't know how to explain what it was to a person that is not a musician. And I had to think a lot on my own, like how to explain this, but it's a very interesting exercise because I think as musicians, again, we don't do enough effort to build an audience outside of the musician circle. And it's very interesting to try to think, how will a non-musician think about this?
Yeah, and you give people also the opportunity to discover something new for them in music. And on the other hand, for me, it's always funny. I mean, I teach also here at the Conservatory in Vienna, and then I ask people, give me 3 hashtags about you. And for you, that would be probably chamber music, violin, and I don't know what. Yeah. So very descriptive. Many musicians do that. They're just descriptive, the instrument, which is completely meaningless. Not me, but to someone outside of the music world. Yeah. And if you kind of think, why are you actually really making music? Yeah, what drives you to practice every day for a couple of hours? What is it there? Is it just because your parents bought you an instrument and put it in your hands? Or a teacher say, oh, you're a great musician, you just need to practice, yeah? Or is there something deeper in there that there is something you want to communicate with the world? And when you're starting and discovering that, it becomes fascinating. Your music will change. You get so much more depth. And when you then learn to speak a bit about it, you will start building an audience immediately. So it's a fantastic discovery journey, just to ask yourself again and again, kind of, why are you making music?
Yes, that's a very important question. Yeah, and as a last question before we go to the next section of the podcast, I wanted to ask, what would you say right now to any musician or artist that is listening to us right now? Any advice or anything that is on your mind lately?
Go out there, make music in front of people who have no clue about music. Don't wait. We need music, and you're making great music, so you make great contribution to our world, which is very, very necessary.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And before we wrap up, I have a couple of dynamics that I do with all the guests. And the first one, I have a series of questions that are inspired by the Proust questionnaire. That is a series of questions to get to know people better. And I will ask you to tell me 3 numbers from 1 to 24, and we reply to 3 of them.
Okay, good. 6, 9, and 24.
Okay, 6, 9, and 24. So 6. What activity makes you forget about the world?
Reading a really good book. Let me completely forget about everything else. I dive into it and I'm completely in that world. I see it in front of me. For me, there was an advertisement for books many years ago. It's cinema in your head. And I couldn't describe it better. It's really like a movie playing in my head and I forget everything else.
Amazing. Yeah, I totally agree. For me, it's the same. For me, it will be reading and writing also. When I write, I can really zoom out completely. But it's very evident for me. I have exactly the same feeling that I have on stage. This kind of flow state when I write, and it's incredible. I have to be careful because sometimes when it doesn't happen often, but when I have a free day for writing, I have to force myself to actually eat and cover my basic necessities because I really get into it 100%. It's crazy.
Fascinating. Yeah. I need to read up what you're writing.
Yes, it's on my newsletter. I just subscribe, but somehow I will tell you later. I don't know why your email doesn't receive the mails. I don't know why, and I didn't manage to fix that. So I will have a look on that later. But yeah, on my newsletter, I send every month an essay or a chronicle, like every month, about different topics. Yes. We will fix that.
Wonderful.
Then, so the other one was 9. Which country would you like to live in? Or if you're happy where you live at right now, it's amazing as well.
That's a difficult question. That's a really difficult question because I don't think in countries. I think in happy places. And I have a lot of happy places. And it's often related to experiences, to people. I had, for example, the most amazing time in Venezuela because of the people there. Such wonderful, warm people. I always love Italy because of the food, of the people, of the coffee, and so on. I love to go to Istanbul, which connects 2 continents, Asia and Europe, and you feel that tension. I love to go to Asia to learn from a very different society, which puts the group before the individual, where I think we all can learn a lot from. And then I definitely have my happy place close to Salzburg at the lake, on Wolfgangsee, which is one of the most magical places in the world. But it's not about country, it's about the people.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. I never thought about that. I will think about my happy places as well. Yeah, but it's, as you said, it's always about the people. I have happy events. Like, for instance, I love book fairs. I love, now, recent discovery, I love going to pop concerts. Amazing places to be. Okay. There is so much joy in that. I will think about it.
And I think from pop concerts, just before go there, I think as classical musicians, you can learn a lot from pop concerts.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine works for one of the biggest pop stars in the world, and what she tells me about the amount of detail going in every single show is fascinating, and I think we can learn a lot from that. They make music for the people. Yeah.
Yes, completely. And I started for the first time of my life to go to pop concerts last year, and it changed my life forever. But in a way that I connected with a joy of music that I forgot about, and also it's just fascinating also to actually, because when you see it from the videos, you don't really have at all the same experience when you are live there and you feel the energy. Is something that is very, very special. This year, I went to one of the concerts of the reunion of Oasis. It was a life-changing experience. I cried during the whole concert. I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. I really had the feeling, oh my God, I want to connect with people at this level, because it was it was really mind-blowing, yeah. Then 24, do you have a motto?
My motto is probably an espresso, which I love to drink. Yeah. So in my work, especially in coaching, I try to be short, intensive, sometimes bitter, but energizing.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, and the final question I have for you is, imagine a situation of total disconnection, like, for example, going to a retreat or a house in the middle of the forest. What are the 3 things that are you bringing with you?
So definitely books. Yeah. Definitely. The second thing is coffee. But actually the first thing, to be honest, is a couple of lovely people. There's nothing better to sit around with people and have deep conversations, and sometimes also deep silence is beautiful. So it's probably these 3 things I would bring, yeah. People, books, coffee.
Great. So, thank you very much for being here today. We arrived at the end of the episode.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for doing such a great podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And this is like your promotion space. Where can people learn more about your work? And is there any event or project that you would like to share?
So the best thing is to go on my webpage, bernhardkerres.com. You also find me on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And if you're interested, one of the topics I'm really interested in at the moment is the impact of artificial intelligence on my work in coaching and training. And I introduced them actually currently. The next one introduction is on December 1st. And if you're interested, that's an hour to see what I'm doing in artificial intelligence, and you can try out the tools. There's even for classical musicians a fun tool about having sales conversations with different people.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. And also thank you for the listeners and for joining us on this episode of Maria Alejandra Off Topic. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And remember that Off Topic is a bigger platform. Find articles, essays, and the newsletter on the website mariaalejandrajimenez.com. And if you want to be part of the brand new private community, El Café Off Topic, you can go to the link in the description, and there you can also buy me a coffee if you want to support this project. If you like this episode, share it with your favorite people, subscribe on your audio platform, and leave a rating. These are the best way to support this podcast, and they're all for free. And that's it for today. We will meet again very soon for more off-topic conversations. Bye!
you.